Hey YouTube, welcome to a video where we are going to take a look at the HEX Gaming Blade X1S controller for Xbox One and the Series X and Series S. HEX Gaming is a new pro controller brand for Xbox and PlayStation aimed at taking on the big boys like Scuff. Including full customization of the design, hair triggers, back buttons and replaceable thumbsticks, we'll take a look at this controller and see how it stacks up to the more established names. Is this level up or just a previous checkpoint restart? Well, stay right here to find out. So what is special about the Blade X1S? What makes it a pro controller? Well, it has the key features that other controllers such as Scuff and Elite will have on them, though maybe not quite as much. But don't let that put you off. Let's just have a quick run through them. Hair triggers. Essential for anyone playing FPS games and the staple of any pro controller really. These can be enabled or disabled at will, and when enabled they just reduce how far you can pull the trigger, allowing you to rapid fire much quicker, more naturally. These are no good for racing games though, as they reduce the amount of throttle or braking for example. For shooting though, it will be tough to go back to regular triggers after using hair triggers. Back buttons. Most pro controllers have 4 of these, including the Razer Wolverine, Scuff Prestige and the Mighty Elite series controllers. The Blade only has 2 of them though, but they can be mapped to a number of different buttons. A, B, X, Y, R3, L3, up, down, left, right, LB, RB, LT and right T. Changeable thumbsticks. Changeable thumbsticks mean that you don't have to worry about aftermarket parts such as control freaks. You get different height and shaped head thumbsticks so you can mix and match depending on the game that you are playing. Need extra accuracy on COD? Well, put a tall stick on the right for more control. Playing some Forza? Put a short stick on. Need something more comfy or a bit like a PlayStation stick? Well, you get dome sticks too. In fact, you get 6 thumbsticks in total, which isn't too shabby. Full design customization. Every bit of the controller can be custom designed with what is available on the website to look the way you want it to. Every visible part of the controller has a design option. That's an awesome plus that none of the big pro controllers have. When it comes to design, there isn't really much to say here as it's basically a default controller, but with the addition of 2 back buttons and trigger stops. Where this controller does set itself apart from others though is the ability to change the look of every single part and make a controller that is likely to be 95% unique to you thanks to the huge amount of design options available. I'm really liking the HEX logo on the home button. It looks really nice, especially when lit up. Using the controller feels a lot like using a default controller. Well, it is a default controller, but with the added bonus of back buttons and hair triggers. The back buttons are perfectly placed in all honesty. They're not too light and they require a good amount of pressure with a satisfying click when they're pressed. It is better than the Scuff and the Razer rear buttons, that is for sure. I don't know if it's just the chrome option, but they have a kind of stickiness that means the fingers don't just slip off of them as well. The sticks are suitably light that you can flick them easily. After a while, they felt really good to use. Coming from an Elite, it is a very different beast as the controller is lighter, has more flexible sticks, and very different back buttons. It is a struggle just getting used to 2 back buttons though. Most people only use 2 on the Elite or Scuffs anyway, but for me, using all 4, it is weird having to go to just 2. The face buttons have a really nice click to them. The hair triggers are good and effective. I found that the left one is a little bit uncomfortable to press when set to short stop every now and then, and I think that's just due to the trigger being a default firm construction with no textured grip for comfort. Sticks are very easy to swap. The concave ones have a textured top with the top feeling slightly wider than standard as there is no hard edged rim. They are nicer than standard controller sticks in this regard. The dome sticks lack the textured grip of the Elite Series 2 dome sticks, so the thumb doesn't grip them quite as well. The textured grips, they give a really nice grip to the controller. The controller comes with no batteries. It's not a big deal, you've probably got a battery pack you want to put in there anyway, but for a pro controller at this kind of price, it would be nice to at least come with a couple of batteries just to get you started. There's also no cable that comes with a controller, probably because there is no battery. So even though you get a controller with a cable when you buy a default one, with this one you get no cable with it. You literally just get the controller. The manual mentions the option of controller lighting, but the option isn't on the site, so I don't know why it's in the manual. I assume it's coming at some point in the future. It can be very fiddly to remap. If you watch the process of remapping it, you have to hold down a whole set of buttons together and hope that the light has actually come on. It's quite difficult to know for sure if it is in remap mode until you've held the buttons down for 5 seconds, turn the controller over, seen that the light is on, and then you know it's good to remap. I'd like to see the remap process be a little bit more user-friendly. That's what I'd like to see for this controller. The remap has to be changed for every single game, but it is a lengthy process. Unlike other Pro controllers such as the Elite and Razor, you can't store configurations on the controller. You can't store up to 3, for example. It only has what's mapped to it at the time, much like the SCUF Prestige. Coupled with the fact that it's a complicated or fiddly remapping process, this isn't ideal. I think HEX Gaming have a lot to do when it comes to remapping here. Once you're remapped, it's fine. But ultimately, the process of doing it, I think, needs a little bit of adjustment to make it really work. Let's take a look at how much this controller would cost you if you were to build it yourself using the parts from, let's say, Amazon, for example. Now, if you buy a controller, that's going to be around £50. The shell itself, £14. The Lofty remap kit, which gives you the buttons and the hair triggers, £35. Thumbsticks, you could buy a set of those for £13. The button and bumper kit would cost you around £12. The case that you get the controller with, that would be about £10 as well, totaling up to around about £134. Now, to build that controller, you'd have to take it all apart. You'd have to spend a good hour doing most of the bits. Then, when you add in the fact that with the Lofty remap kit, you'd actually have to do a load of soldering inside the controller. That's a lot of effort to go to get this controller. That's £134 to do all of that work if you bought the parts on Amazon. At the time of me getting this controller, if you bought the premium edition, it would cost you £112. So that's a saving of £23 alone just by buying one from HEX Gaming. Plus, of course, what you can't just buy from Extreme Ray is the nice little HEX logo home button, which does look really good. So value for money, buying it like this rather than modifying your own controller, definitely worth it. So overall, I think this is good value for money. If you use an Elite controller to its fullest, then I'll be honest, the blade is going to be a bit of a step back for you. However, most Pro controller users don't use the paddles or the back buttons, or use just 2 of them. I seem to be one of the few that actually use all 4 on my Elite, so this might actually be okay for a lot of people. The controller lacks the premium feel of some other Pro controllers, but it also lacks the high price tag of other premium controllers. This is a great option if you like the Extreme Rate aftermarket customization options, but are nervous about taking a controller apart. When you look at the cost of the components individually, you can grab a HEX for less than actually buying a default controller and modifying it yourself. On top of that, you get a warranty should anything go wrong with it, and you know that you aren't going to break it by trying to build it yourself. I love the look of it. I designed it, so I guess I should do. And once you get used to it, it's really nice to use and sits happily between a default controller and one of the pricier Pro controllers, such as the SCUF Prestige or the Elite Series 2. It's a nice way of having a controller that can enhance your gameplay and also show off a bit about your own style. There are so many options available for design that the chances of having a HEX controller that is exactly the same as someone else's is going to be very, very low. And it is nice to have something that is unique to you.